You're not exhausted because too much is happening in your life. You're exhausted because nothing feels allowed to just be what it is. A message shows up, and it doesn't just stay a message. It turns into a signal, a guess, a story about what it means for you. And over time, you stop reacting to what actually happened. You start reacting to what it might say about you. That's where the weight is coming from. Not the moment itself, but the way your mind keeps turning every small thing into a reflection of you. A lot of people think their stress is proof that they care too much. That is not always true. Sometimes your stress is proof that you have been living inside a culture that keeps turning ordinary life into something visible, measurable, and easy to compare. You wake up in Chicago, reach for your iPhone at 6:47 a.m., and before your feet touch the floor, you already know who texted back, who saw your Instagram story, who updated LinkedIn, who got engaged in Dallas, who moved to Brooklyn, who posted a gym mirror selfie in Los Angeles, and who somehow looks like they're doing better than you before breakfast. That does something to a person. It changes the job of your attention. Your day is no longer just your day. It becomes a surface, a thing that can be shown, reacted to, read, and silently ranked. You are not only getting dressed for work, you are also seeing how your life appears. You are not only going on a first date in Austin, you are also aware that dating now comes with profile photos, read receipts, last active timestamps, and the strange pressure to seem effortless on Tinder while privately hoping to be chosen. That is a different kind of tired. And because it is normal now, people blame themselves for it. They say, I need thicker skin. I need to stop overthinking. I need to stop caring so much. But a lot of what feels personal is not fully personal. Some of it has been trained into you by repetition. Some of it comes from living in a world where the line between private life and public life got thinner, then thinner again, and then almost disappeared. In 2020, during the remote work boom, millions of people in the United States did not just start working from home. They started performing stability through a webcam. Zoom meetings turned kitchens into offices. Slack turned response time into a social signal. A delayed message from your manager at 4:12 p.m. could sit in your chest longer than it should, not because the message itself mattered that much, but because work was no longer only about work. It was also about presence, tone, availability, perception. That matters, because once enough of life becomes visible, you stop needing a real audience to feel observed. You begin carrying the audience in your own head. You post less because you are tired, then wonder what that absence says. You say no to an invitation in Phoenix, and half of your mind is already writing the version of that decision that other people might imagine. You take a quiet Saturday in Boston, and instead of just resting, you notice how easy it is to feel behind when TikTok keeps serving you people renovating apartments, launching side businesses, running marathons, and announcing pregnancies in a single scroll. This is why the pressure feels so constant. It is not only that people can see more, it is that you have been taught to think of your life as something that should make sense from the outside. That habit creeps into places where it does not belong. It enters friendship, it enters ambition, it enters health, it enters grief, it enters love. A breakup used to be painful enough on its own. Now it can come with archived photos, Spotify playlists, mutuals still watching your stories, and the weird temptation to look okay online before you actually feel okay in your body. That is not a small change.
People often speak as if image pressure belongs to celebrities, athletes, influencers, or politicians. As if you need 2 million followers in Miami before the public gaze can become a problem. But that is old thinking.
A 24-year-old nurse in Atlanta can feel it. A sophomore on a college campus in Ohio can feel it. A man applying for a new job in Seattle can feel it when he rewrites his LinkedIn headline 3 times in 1 week, trying to sound ambitious without sounding desperate. A woman on Hinge in New York can feel it when she studies her own profile like a hiring manager, asking not, "Is this me?" but, "Will this land well?" That is where the trouble starts. Because you begin to organize your life around readability, around how easily your choices can be explained, defended, admired, or approved. You choose the major that looks serious. You take the internship that photographs well. You stay in the relationship that is easy to announce. You keep the apartment you cannot afford because it fits the version of adulthood you thought you were supposed to show by age 30. Now the pressure is no longer occasional. It becomes built into your decisions. And once that happens, simple things stop being simple. A workout is not always a workout. Sometimes it becomes content. A dinner is not always dinner. Sometimes it becomes proof that your life is social enough. A promotion is not always a promotion. Sometimes it becomes a signal that you are not falling behind your college friends in San Francisco. Even a quiet weekend can start to feel suspicious because stillness does not show well in a culture that rewards motion, updates, launches, before and after photos, and visible momentum. So when you feel tired, ask a better question.
Not only, what happened to me? Also, what kind of world have I been practicing inside every day? Because a person can spend years in an environment that rewards constant display and then call the consequences insecurity, weakness, or emotional immaturity. That is too small an explanation. You can be thoughtful, capable, and self-aware, and still get worn down if your attention lives in a place where nearly everything can be turned into a performance. Look at how ordinary this has become. Graduation season in May is no longer only about finishing school. It is also about announcement posts, family photos, offer letters, and the quiet panic of the student in Michigan who still does not know what comes next. Holiday posting cycle in December is no longer only about being with people you love. It is also about matching pajamas, engagement reveals, travel photos from Aspen, and the single person in Nashville trying not to compare their actual living room with someone else's edited version of happiness. This is not vanity, not always. A lot of the time, it is adaptation. You are adjusting to the weather around you. If you spend enough years in a place where almost everything gets turned into a signal, you start speaking that language too. You begin to read tone into who liked the photo. You begin to attach meaning to who viewed the story first. You begin to notice who posted from the corporate office at 9:30 p.m. and who seemed to be thriving on a rooftop in West Hollywood. You begin to feel that your life should not only be lived, but also legible. And that word matters, legible. Because legibility sounds innocent. It sounds like clarity. But there is a hidden cost when you cannot tolerate being misunderstood, unseen, or unannounced for a while. You start trimming yourself into shapes that are easier for strangers, co-workers, old classmates, or casual followers to process. The person in Minneapolis who really wants a quiet life starts pretending to want a louder one, because quiet does not look like progress online. The person in Austin who is deeply tired keeps posting gym updates because visible discipline feels safer than invisible confusion. The person in a corporate office in Manhattan keeps saying yes to things they no longer respect because saying no creates questions, and questions create exposure. That is how you drift. Not all at once, quietly, through 100 tiny edits. The dangerous part is that none of this requires a villain.
It does not require cruel people or fake friends or one dramatic betrayal. It only requires a daily environment where being seen becomes tied to feeling real. Once that link settles in, even neutral moments can start feeling loaded. A group chat goes quiet for 6 hours. A dating app match stops replying on Sunday night. A recruiter in Denver does not follow up after a second interview. A friend from college posts wedding photos from Charleston while you are eating takeout alone in Queens. None of those moments are automatically devastating. But in a culture trained on comparison, visibility, and constant updates, they do not stay small for long. They begin to say more than they actually say. And here is where many people make the wrong conclusion. They think the answer is to become harder, less available, less sensitive, less human. But that misses the point. The point is not that feeling things is the problem. The point is that many people are trying to feel normal inside conditions that keep asking them to witness themselves from the outside. That split is exhausting. You can see it on a college campus in Los Angeles when students walk out of class already editing the version of themselves they will show later that night. You can see it in a corporate office in New York when people stop talking like people and start talking like their performance review is always one room away.
You can see it on LinkedIn when grief, ambition, layoffs, and personal branding all end up in the same tone of polished resilience. You can see it on Instagram when healing starts looking suspiciously like curation. And once you notice it, a lot of your confusion starts making sense. You were never only dealing with your own feelings. You were also dealing with the pressure to package them well, to appear okay at the right speed, to suffer in a way that remains attractive, to grow in a way that can be shown, to make decisions that still look coherent from the outside, even while your inside is changing faster than your image can keep up. That is a real burden. Think about how often people say they want to get their life together. Listen closely, and a lot of the time they do not mean peace. They mean a life that reads as stable, a life with good signals, better calendar photos, cleaner milestones, a relationship that is easier to explain at Thanksgiving, a job title that lands well in a college reunion conversation, a body that tells a more convincing story in July. That is not always the same thing as actually being well. Sometimes it is the opposite. A person can look more organized and be more fragmented. A person can be posting from a co-working space in Soho and still feel deeply lost. A person can seem socially full in Miami and still be lonely in the part of life no one sees. A person can have perfect couple photos and still be living in emotional confusion. But because modern life trains us to trust signals, we begin to confuse visible order with inner steadiness. That confusion costs people years. Years of choosing based on optics. Years of second-guessing private needs because they are not easy to display. Years of treating quiet progress like it is not real unless it leaves evidence. Years of believing the pressure is coming from everyone out there, when a large part of it is coming from a habit formed inside an environment that rarely lets life stay private, unfinished, or unclear. So the issue is bigger than insecurity. It is about exposure, repetition, social weather. The kind of weather that keeps telling you your life is not fully real until it has been seen, affirmed, or somehow made legible to other people. That message gets delivered 1,000 small ways. Through app design, through office culture, through dating culture, through friend groups. Through the way success is posted, the way happiness is photographed, the way struggle is branded into something acceptable. And after enough years, you stop feeling the source
you only feel the symptom. The symptom is this low-grade pressure that follows you into ordinary moments, into a haircut, into a delayed text, into a move to Austin, into a breakup in Philadelphia, into a new job in Seattle, into a slow month where nothing looks exciting enough to prove anything. That is when people say, "Why am I like this?" And maybe the kinder question is, what have I been marinating in? Because once you ask that, self-blame loosens. You start seeing that a lot of your strain did not come from nowhere. It grew in conditions that quietly reward display, compare visibility, and treat life like an ongoing feed. You stop making the whole story about your personality. You begin noticing the air you have been breathing. That matters because it changes what freedom even means. Freedom is not becoming invisible. It is not quitting every app, moving to Montana, and pretending none of this touches you. For most people, that is not realistic. Freedom begins a little earlier than that. It begins when you realize your attention has been trained, not just distracted. It begins when you notice that your stress is not always proof of fragility.
Sometimes it is proof that you have been living in a public-facing rhythm for so long that you forgot what it feels like to have a day that does not need to be translated. A day can just be a day. A workout can just strengthen your body. A dinner in Houston can just feed you. A Saturday in Brooklyn can just be quiet. A job can just pay your bills while you figure out who you are. A relationship can just be private while it is still becoming real. A bad week can just be a bad week instead of a verdict on your whole life. That is the part many people never get taught. They learn how to optimize, how to present, how to signal, how to stay updated, how to remain available. But they do not learn how to live without turning every ordinary thing into a statement. So they get better at appearing stable while feeling increasingly split inside. And when that split goes on long enough, you begin to live like your real life is always a draft. That is a hard way to be alive. So before you call yourself too sensitive, too needy, too weak, or too behind, stop for a second. Look at the conditions. Look at the habits those conditions rewarded. Look at the kind of attention your life has been practicing. Because once life becomes something you are always half seeing from the outside, it makes sense that your nervous system never fully relaxes. It makes sense that silence can feel louder than it should. It makes sense that being unobserved can feel almost unfamiliar. And that leads to the next question. If this pressure has been reinforced by repetition for years, if your body has learned to treat signals, updates, and visibility like they matter more than they should, then how exactly did your brain get trained to do that in the first place? You check your phone at 8 a.m. before work. There is no reply. The message shows delivered but not read on Apple Messages. And something in your body shifts. Not a thought, not even a full emotion yet, just a quiet drop. You open Gmail next. No response from the manager after that interview you had on Tuesday. You reread the last line you sent. You check the timestamp again, and the day hasn't even started, but something already feels off. This is where most people blame themselves. They say they're too sensitive. They say they need to toughen up. But look closer at what just happened. It wasn't just a missing reply. It was your body reacting to the absence of a signal it has learned to rely on. A signal that, at some point, meant things were okay. And that learning didn't happen in one moment. It happened slowly, through repetition. You send a message on WhatsApp. Someone replies quickly. You feel relief. You post something on Instagram. You see the likes come in within minutes. You feel settled. You miss a call on FaceTime.
You call back and they answer. You feel reconnected. It seems small, but the body keeps track. When signals come, things feel safe. When they don't, something feels uncertain. Not because the situation is dangerous, but because your system has learned to link response with stability. And over time, that link gets stronger. Think about Friday night. You text someone after dinner. No reply for 2 hours. Nothing actually happened, but your mind starts filling in gaps. Or Sunday evening, you check your email. Still no answer from that college admissions email you've been waiting on. You tell yourself to relax, but your body doesn't listen to that sentence, because it's not working from logic. It's working from memory. Memory of what usually comes next. Memory of how things feel when signals appear. Memory of how silence used to mean something. So the reaction isn't random. It's trained. And this is where a quiet confusion starts. Because there are two different things happening, and most people treat them as one. One is needing people. The other is using their signals to regulate yourself. They are not the same. You can genuinely care about someone.
You can genuinely want connection. But when your emotional stability depends on whether a read receipt turns blue on iMessage, something else is happening. That's not connection. That's dependence on feedback. And the line between those two is very easy to miss. Because on the surface, they feel identical. You say you miss them. But what you're really missing is the feeling you get when they respond. You say you want clarity, but what you're really chasing is the relief that comes when uncertainty ends. You say you need closure, but sometimes what you're actually looking for is a signal strong enough to calm your system. That difference matters, because if you don't see it, you will keep solving the wrong problem. You'll try to get more responses. You'll try to communicate better. You'll try to explain yourself more clearly. But the issue isn't always in the conversation. Sometimes it's in what your body has learned to expect from it. Look at something simple. A delayed email from a manager on Slack after a performance review. Objectively, it could mean anything. They're busy, they're in meetings, they forgot. But if your system has learned that feedback equals safety, then delay starts to feel like risk. And once that feeling appears, your mind starts working to justify it. You replay what you said. You adjust your memory of the interaction. You start preparing explanations that nobody asked for. Not because you're irrational, but because your body is trying to close a loop it believes should already be closed. This is why small signals can carry so much weight. A typing bubble that appears, then disappears. A read receipt with no reply. A voicemail left unanswered. Each one becomes more than it is, not because the event is big, but because of what it has been associated with over time. And here's the part most people don't notice. Once your system learns to scan for these signals, it doesn't wait for them to appear. It starts looking for them. You check your phone without thinking. You refresh Gmail without realizing. You glance at Slack even when no notification came. Not because something happened, but because your body is trying to confirm that nothing is wrong. And the absence of confirmation becomes its own kind of tension. This is how ordinary days start to feel heavier than they are. Nothing dramatic happens. No conflict, no clear rejection, just small gaps. And those gaps get filled automatically, not by facts, but by the need to restore a sense of stability. That's why a missed FaceTime can affect your mood. That's why a delayed reply on WhatsApp can stay in your head for hours. That's why silence after a Hinge match feels louder than it should. Because the reaction isn't about the event itself. It's about what your system has learned to expect from that type of event. And once that expectation is set, anything that breaks it feels like a disruption.
even if nothing is actually wrong. This is where a quiet shift begins. You start organizing your behavior around responses. You time your messages. You think about how something will be received before you even send it. You adjust your tone based on how quickly someone replied last time, not consciously, but consistently. And over time, your internal state starts depending on things you don't control. Not because you chose that, but because it was learned. Learned from repetition. Learned from patterns of relief. Learned from moments where attention came right after uncertainty. So your system connected the two. Attention means things are okay. Silence means something might be wrong, even when it doesn't. And that's where the real cost begins. Because now, you're not just living your day, you're monitoring it. Through read receipts, through typing indicators, through timestamps. And the more you monitor, the more sensitive you become to changes. A 5-minute delay becomes noticeable. A 30-minute delay becomes uncomfortable.
A 2-hour delay starts to feel personal, even when nothing about it is personal. This is how your system starts turning neutral events into emotional signals, not because you're weak, but because your body has been trained to treat feedback as regulation. And once that link is in place, you don't need a real threat to feel unsettled. Uncertainty is enough. That's the part people misunderstand. They think the problem is overthinking, but the thinking comes after. First comes the shift in your body. Then the mind builds a story to match it. So you're not just imagining things, you're responding to something real inside you. But that real doesn't always reflect what's happening outside. It reflects what your system expects to happen next. And when that expectation is broken, you feel it immediately. Even in something as small as a blue bubble that never appears. So the question isn't just why you care so much. It's why your system learned that these signals matter this much. Because once you see that, you stop blaming your reactions, and you start seeing where they came from. Which leads to a different kind of question. If your body learned to depend on these signals, what would it take to teach it something else? A lot of people use the same word for 4 very different ways of relating. They call all of it love, or healing, or self-respect. But those words hide more than they reveal. And that matters because if you cannot tell the difference between holding on, acting detached, going numb, and actually becoming steady, you can spend years naming the wrong thing as progress. A woman goes on a first date in Chicago and checks her iMessage every 12 minutes after she gets home. A man in Seattle decides not to answer anyone for 3 days after a breakup and calls it peace. Someone in Miami posts a quiet quote on Instagram after every argument and tells herself she is finally choosing herself. Someone else in Boston says no once, clearly, and then goes to sleep without rehearsing the whole conversation 10 more times. Those are not the same. They may look similar from the outside. They may all come with less talking, less reaching, less visible emotion. But inside, they come from very different places. One is fear of being left. One is fear of being seen. One is fear of feeling. One is the strength to stay present without abandoning yourself. And if you confuse those, you will keep misreading your own life. The first one is the easiest to recognize once you stop romanticizing it. It is the person who calls intensity devotion. The person who says, "I just care deeply," when what is really happening is that their sense of safety rises and falls with another person's response. It shows up in little things. A delayed reply on WhatsApp after dinner in Dallas. A Snapchat left unopened during Thanksgiving week. A work friend at the office happy hour who seems slightly colder than usual, and now your whole Friday night feels different. That kind of attachment does not wait for facts. It reacts to shifts. You read into pauses, you study tone, you treat timing like evidence. Your ex-partner takes 6 hours to answer after month 3 of no contact, and your body acts as if something final just happened. Your manager sends "Let's talk Monday" on Slack at 5:43 p.m., and your weekend changes shape. Your best friend from college leaves your Instagram DM on red, and suddenly the friendship feels unstable. You are not responding to what happened. You are responding to what the change might mean for your place in someone else's world. That is the cling. It often looks generous at first. You are available, thoughtful, quick to reassure, quick to explain. You remember details, you keep things alive. You check in first. You smooth over tension before it turns into distance.
In a relationship in Phoenix, you might be the one who always says, "It's okay, I understand," even when it is not okay and you do not understand at all. In a group chat after a long Sunday reset, you are the one making sure nobody is upset, nobody is pulling away, nobody is quietly disappointed. But the hidden cost is that you keep leaving yourself to keep contact. You swallow what hurts you. You overtranslate your feelings. You say yes too fast. You stay too reachable. You confuse access with closeness and effort with value. So when people pull back even slightly, you do not just miss them. You lose your footing. And then you call that love, when much of it is fear of disconnection, wearing the clothes of devotion. Here is a simple test. When someone goes quiet, do you become more honest or more eager to stay acceptable? If the answer is the second one, that is not steadiness. That is self-erasure with good manners. Now, look at a different kind of person. This one is harder to spot because it can look polished. They are not clinging, they are curating. They do not always chase openly. They manage image. They want to seem above it, healed, selective, hard to shake. After a breakup in Los Angeles, they post a gym mirror selfie on Monday, a dinner photo on Wednesday, and a clean quote on Instagram stories by Friday night. None of that proves they are pretending, but sometimes it is not expression. Sometimes it is image control. This person is not trying to hold on to love. They are trying to control how their pain is seen. That can show up anywhere. On LinkedIn, after a layoff in New York, when someone writes a perfectly composed post before they have even felt the loss privately. On Zoom, after a conflict at work, when someone performs calm so well that nobody can tell they spent 2 hours shaking afterward. On a first date in Austin, when someone answers every question smoothly, reveals just enough, never too much, and leaves the impression of mystery when what is really there is fear of not landing correctly. This is a different problem. The clinging person says, "Please don't go." The performing person says, "You will not see how much this touches me." Both are organized around the outside. One tries to keep the bond, the other tries to control the impression. One overgives, the other edits. One spills too much, the other shows a version designed to win respect, desire, or distance. And because performance can look strong, people mistake it for growth. A woman in Atlanta starts saying, "I'm just protecting my energy," but every choice is still built around how she will be perceived. A man in Brooklyn says, "I don't explain myself anymore," but he spends half the day rewriting text messages in his notes app before sending them. Someone on Hinge says they are finally dating with standards, but every answer is still selected for effect. They are not living more freely. They are just producing a cleaner image of someone who is. That is why this version can be so deceptive. It does not feel messy. It feels controlled. It feels mature. It can even feel empowering at first. You stop oversharing. You stop pleading. You stop asking for reassurance in obvious ways. But if your peace still depends on how well your image holds, you have not stepped out of dependence. You have simply changed costumes. And that is exhausting in its own way. Because now you are always managing a presentation, not only in romance, but in friendship, work, and family. At a holiday family dinner in Denver, you are not just present. You are also making sure you do not look needy, reactive, behind, too emotional, too alone, too much. At an office happy hour in Manhattan after a promotion, you are not only celebrating,
You are also scanning whether you seem grateful enough, grounded enough, still likable enough. That is not freedom. That is another kind of pressure. Here is another test. When you say less, is it because you are finally at peace with not controlling the room, or because you are trying to look unbothered? Those are two different silences. One is rest, the other is theater. Then there is the third person. This one scares people because it can look clean from a distance. No overtexting, no checking, no dramatic checking. After a breakup in San Diego, they disappear. I shut down. After being misunderstood by a best friend in Philadelphia, they answer with one cold line and never bring it up again. Many people call that strength. Sometimes it is not strength at all. Sometimes it is numbness with better branding. This person has not become calm. They've become unreachable. They do not look for closeness because closeness has started to feel expensive. They do not ask for reassurance because needing anything feels humiliating. They do not explain because they have decided misunderstanding is safer than vulnerability. They do not soften because softening feels like handing somebody a knife. So they keep people out before anyone gets close enough to matter. You can see it in ordinary details. An ex-partner sends a thoughtful message after 90 days, and they leave it sitting in Gmail because opening it feels riskier than not knowing. A friend in Portland asks, "Are you okay?" And they answer, "I'm good." Not because they are good, but because the cost of being real feels too high. A therapist invites them to stay with a feeling for 10 more seconds, and they turned it into a joke. A mentor gives honest praise after a hard month, and they shrug it off like it means nothing. This person has not solved dependence. They have ended contact with parts of themselves. That can feel powerful for a while.
less drama, less exposure, less disappointment, less waiting, less begging. But the bill arrives later, because when you train yourself not to need, not to soften, not to let anything in, you do not only block pain, you block nourishment too. You block repair. You block trust. You block being changed by something good. Then you start confusing emptiness with peace. You say you like being alone, but your version of alone feels more like not having to be touched by anyone. You say you are finally choosing yourself, but you cannot receive care without suspicion. You say you keep your circle small, but nobody can get close enough to know the real version of you after 10 p.m. on a hard Tuesday. You say you are stable, but one sincere question in a coffee shop in Nashville makes you want to leave the conversation entirely. That is not steadiness. It is self-protection that never learned when to stop. Another simple test. When someone gentle comes closer, do you feel relieved or irritated? If tenderness feels like a threat to your control, then distance may not be wisdom. It may be armor that has been worn too long. So now we have three people: the one who grips, the one who performs, the one who shuts down. All three can claim they are just loving deeply, protecting themselves, or healing. All three can look more composed than they feel. And all three are still being directed by something outside them. The first is ruled by losing contact. The second is ruled by looking wrong. The third is ruled by the possibility of being touched where it still hurts. That is why the fourth person matters so much. Not because they are perfect, not because they never get activated, not because they no longer care, but because they care without handing over the steering wheel. This kind of person still feels disappointment. A delayed reply still registers. A colder tone on a Sunday afternoon still lands somewhere. A breakup in month 2 still hurts.
A missed FaceTime from someone they love still matters. But their whole inner life does not get rearranged by it. They do not disappear into analysis. They do not rush to repair what they did not break. They do not build a performance to recover their image. They do not freeze their heart to avoid being moved. They stay in contact with themselves while staying in contact with reality. That is the difference. A steady person can say, "I don't like how that felt," without turning one awkward moment into a verdict on their worth. They can want closeness without bargaining for it. They can enjoy attention without living on it. They can be alone on a Friday night in Seattle without turning the silence into proof that they are unwanted. They can go on a first date in Chicago, have a good time, and not spend the next 48 hours rebuilding the evening in their head. Because their value is not hanging entirely from response. Watch how they move in small things. Someone delays a reply. They notice. They do not collapse. A friend misunderstands them. They clarify once, maybe twice, and then stop trying to win perfect interpretation. A manager gives unclear feedback after a performance review. They ask direct questions instead of quietly spiraling. A new person they are dating turns hot and cold over 3 weeks. They do not call that chemistry. They read it for what it is. And then they choose accordingly. Not loudly, not dramatically, cleanly. That is where a lot of people get confused. They think steadiness should feel intense, bold, decisive, almost cinematic. Usually it feels quieter than that. It looks like less explaining, less chasing, less image management, less guessing, more honesty, more pause, more willingness to let what is real reveal itself over time. That is why it can seem boring to someone used to emotional highs. The cling gives you urgency. The performance gives you polish. The shutdown gives you control. Steadiness gives you less drama and more truth. And truth often feels flatter at first. There may be no big speech, no final message, no dramatic unfollowing, no perfect posture, no spiritual quote on Instagram. Just one person in Cleveland noticing, with unusual honesty, "This relationship makes me smaller," and then responding accordingly. Just one person in Houston realizing, "I don't actually need to prove I'm over it," and letting their private life stay private. Just one person in a therapist's office in Boston saying, "I don't want to become colder. I want to become safer inside myself." That is a very different desire. Because the goal is not to need nobody. It is to stop asking other people to hold together the parts of you that only you can learn to hold. The goal is not to become untouchable. It is to be touchable without becoming unstable. The goal is not to speak less so you seem strong. It is to stop using words to manage fear every time closeness becomes uncertain. The goal is not to disappear. It is to remain fully there without handing away your center. and you can feel the difference in real life. A steady person can go to Thanksgiving dinner, hear an irritating comment from an uncle, and not lose themselves trying to repair the whole room. A steady person can see an ex-partner's name pop up on iMessage and decide later is okay. A steady person can enjoy a good night in Miami without needing to turn it into proof that life is back on track. A steady person can be loved and still say no. They can be disappointed and still sleep. They can be misunderstood and still remain intact. That kind of strength does not look flashy. It looks ordinary, which is why so many people miss it. They are still waiting for growth to feel like a stronger image, a colder face, a sharper text, a better exit line. But growth is often less theatrical than that. It is the ability to remain yourself in the presence of tension, to stay warm without becoming easy to use,
To stay open without becoming formless. To stay clear without becoming hard. That is a much harder thing to build, and it starts by naming your current style honestly. Not your ideal, not the version you post, not the version you tell yourself after one good week. The real one. When you feel distance, do you chase? That is one answer. When you feel exposed, do you perform? That is another. When you feel hurt, do you disappear inside yourself? That is another too. And when you feel uncertainty, can you stay present long enough to see what is actually there before your fear chooses for you? That answer tells you a lot, because many people are proud of changes that are not really changes. They stopped pleading, but now they punish with silence. They stopped over-explaining, but now they hide. They stopped asking for reassurance, but now they call numbness peace. They stopped performing sweetness, but now they perform detachment. The behavior changed. The fear is still in charge. So do not judge yourself only by what you stopped doing. Look at what is now driving the silence. Look at what is driving the confidence. Look at what is driving the distance. If the driver is still fear, the outside may look improved while the inside stays trapped. That is why a person can seem more mature after a breakup and still be deeply unavailable. That is why someone can talk about standards all day and still be organizing their entire dating life around whether they feel chosen. That is why someone can be excellent at saying no at work and still crumble when a specific person withdraws affection. Different area, same ache. And that is why this matters far beyond romance. You can cling to your boss's approval. You can perform for your friend group. You can shut down in your family. You can become steady in one part of life and still be shaky in another. A man in Austin may look grounded in business and become a child again when his mother goes cold on the phone. A woman in New York may hold strong limits in dating and still perform success non-stop on LinkedIn. A student in Los Angeles may look independent with friends and still collapse inside when a professor takes too long to reply to an email. So this is not about one relationship style. It is about how you handle closeness, uncertainty, and exposure anywhere they appear. The cling asks, how do I keep this? The performer asks, how do I come across? The shut-down self asks, how do I avoid getting hit? The steady self asks, what is true here? And how do I stay with myself while I respond? That last one changes everything. Because once you live there, you stop confusing less emotion with more maturity. You stop admiring coldness just because it is clean. You stop praising intensity just because it is passionate. You stop calling image control self-respect. You stop calling emotional absence peace. You begin to care about a quieter thing. Can I stay honest without begging? Can I stay open without melting? Can I stay clear without turning cruel? Can I love someone without making them the place where I go to recover my whole sense of worth? That is adulthood in real life. Not polished, not dramatic, not perfect, just clean. And that is why the difference matters so much. Because if you misread the cling as love, the performance as confidence, or the shut-down self as strength, you will keep moving in the wrong direction while believing you are healing. You will keep becoming harder in places that needed softness, and softer in places that needed self-respect. You will keep making choices that look grown while secretly keeping you dependent, lonely, or emotionally absent. Then years pass, and you wonder why nothing truly changed. So before you tell yourself you are finally better, ask something more uncomfortable. When pressure rises, who shows up first inside you? The one who grips? The one who edits? The one who freezes?
Or the one who can stay present, tell the truth, and let another person's mood remain theirs without making it your identity? Your answer matters. Because once you can tell the difference between distance, image, numbness, and real steadiness, another problem shows up right behind it. You may understand yourself more clearly and still feel like your life has not changed much at all. And that can be deeply frustrating. So why does that happen? Why do some people finally see what they have been doing, finally name it honestly, and still feel stuck in the same life anyway? The damage is not only that you lose hours. It is that, little by little, you become easier to shape. A person can spend 2 years checking LinkedIn job titles in Manhattan, comparing salaries in Austin, watching apartment tours in Brooklyn, and telling themselves they are just staying informed. But somewhere in that habit, something quieter starts happening. You stop asking what fits your life. You start asking what reads well from the outside. That is a dangerous shift. Because once your choices start answering to an audience in your head, your life begins to bend around appearances before it bends around truth. You pick the major that sounds respectable on graduation day in May. You keep the relationship that looks stable in holiday photos. You take the job in New York that impresses old classmates from college, even though your body feels heavier every Sunday night. And after enough of that, you do not only feel tired, you feel unfamiliar to yourself. That is why this matters more than people think. Most people notice the stress first, the checking, the overthinking, the tension after a delayed text, the weird drop in mood after seeing someone else's engagement on Instagram or someone else's promotion on LinkedIn. But underneath all of that, there is a slower cost. It changes your taste. It changes your standards. It changes what you reach for automatically. It changes who gets to define what a good life even looks like. Look at how this happens in ordinary American life. A 22-year-old in Chicago changes majors twice, not because she is exploring honestly, but because one path sounds more impressive when relatives ask about it at Thanksgiving dinner. A 29-year-old in Los Angeles starts posting gym progress every week, not because he loves training, but because visible discipline gets more approval than quiet confusion. A couple in Dallas soft launches their relationship on Instagram before they have even figured out whether they feel safe with each other in private. That is not harmless. It teaches you to trust the display before the reality. And once that habit gets deep enough,
You can start building a life that looks coherent while feeling strangely hollow from the inside. You move to Manhattan because it feels like the kind of city a serious person should want. You stay in a startup scene in Austin because leaving would look like losing momentum. You keep telling yourself that the pressure is normal because everyone around you seems to be living by the same script. But a crowded script can still be wrong for you. This is where people often get confused. They think identity is something dramatic, something philosophical, something you lose only after a huge crisis. Most of the time, it goes in smaller ways than that. It goes in repeated edits, in the joke you make because it lands better, in the career answer you give on a first date because it sounds stronger, in the way you describe your life on Hinge, on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on a Zoom call, until your public voice gets cleaner and cleaner, and your real voice gets harder to hear. Then one day you realize you can explain yourself very well. You just cannot feel yourself very clearly. That is a serious loss, because your real life depends on being able to tell the difference between what you want and what performs well.
The city you want is not always the city that photographs best. The relationship you need is not always the one that looks easiest to explain. The work that fits you is not always the one that sounds the most impressive in a corporate office or at a 10-year reunion. But if you spend enough time watching how your life appears, you start confusing approval with alignment. And approval is loud. Alignment is often quiet. A lot of people never notice that difference until they hit a wall. The lawyer in Boston with the clean resume, the polished apartment, the expensive gym membership, and the permanent Sunday dread. The student in California who gets into grad school in 2024 and feels more numb than proud. The woman in Miami who keeps posting healthy meals, beach runs, and smiling selfies, while privately feeling like her days belong to a version of her that needs to keep being confirmed. That kind of split does not happen all at once. It gets built. It gets built each time appearance wins over honesty. Each time, will this make sense? Beats, does this feel true? Each time a visible identity gets rewarded while the private self gets postponed. And because the rewards are real, attention, approval, opportunity, the trade can seem smart for a long time, until you realize you are living inside choices that fit your image better than your nervous system. That is why this goes beyond insecurity. It reaches into direction. It reaches into desire. It reaches into the kind of person you slowly become when other people's reactions are allowed to train your preferences. A man in Seattle starts thinking he wants the high-status job, but half of what he really wants is relief from comparison. A woman in Phoenix starts thinking she wants the aesthetic apartment, but part of what she wants is to stop feeling behind when she scrolls through New York and Los Angeles all night. A recent graduate in Atlanta says he wants to stay open to options, but he is actually terrified of choosing anything that might look small. That fear can shape an entire decade. Because when image becomes the hidden judge, you stop making clean decisions. You start making defensible ones. Choices that sound good in public. Choices that keep you legible. Choices that protect you from feeling awkward, average, uncertain, or misunderstood. You choose a salary over a life rhythm. You choose optics over peace. You choose to stay in something long after it stopped feeding you, because leaving would force you to admit that the polished version was never the whole story. And then you call that maturity. You tell yourself you are being practical, responsible, strategic. But often, there is something much sadder going on. You are trying to avoid the shame of looking like a person who does not have it together. So you hold on to the city, the title, the relationship, the style, the routine, the body, the social role that can still keep the picture intact, even when the life inside that picture is thinning out. Take something as ordinary as changing your major. On a college campus in 2023, that should be a practical decision, a matter of interest, skill, money, time, and fit. But for many students in the United States, it becomes a public identity event. Switching out of pre-law or finance can feel less like a course correction and more like a reputational risk. Suddenly, the question is not, what am I actually good at? It becomes, how will this sound when I explain it? That is how outside pressure enters the self. Or look at dating. A person goes on 4 dates with someone in Chicago. It is fine, but not alive. The conversation is smooth, the photos look good, the social story makes sense, so they keep going. Not because the bond is real, but because the relationship is easy to present. They do the public relationship soft launch on Instagram. They let friends know.
They build the shape before they build the truth. Now leaving costs more, not just emotionally, socially, symbolically. And when that happens, people often stay longer than they should, not because love is deep, but because the image got there first. That should worry you, because once the image arrives before the truth has to fight harder to be heard. And the same thing happens with work. A young professional in Manhattan gets promoted during a corporate review cycle. The salary is better. The title sounds clean on LinkedIn. The announcement gets attention. But her sleep gets worse. Her chest tightens on the subway every Monday morning. She has less patience, less appetite, less room in her mind. Still, she keeps telling herself this is what success is supposed to feel like, because the outside markers are winning the argument. That is how people leave themselves without noticing. Not through one huge betrayal. Through repeated cooperation with a version of life that keeps being rewarded from the outside. And the rewards are seductive because they are visible. A blue check of approval from the world, more views, better labels, cleaner explanations. A salary number that lands. An apartment that photographs well. A body that signals self-control. A partner who makes the story look finished. But a clean story can still hide a confused life. This is why the cost is not just emotional exhaustion. It is identity drift. You start sounding like what gets praised. You start moving toward what keeps you safe from embarrassment. You start shaping your ambitions around what other people can easily understand. And then your own instincts stop getting regular practice. So when you finally need them, they are weaker. A person who has spent 5 years curating themselves on TikTok or Instagram may become excellent at sensing what lands and terrible at sensing what nourishes.
A person who has learned to survive by reading rooms can become great at staying acceptable and weak at staying honest. A person who has built a whole life around visible competence can look highly functional on Zoom and still have no idea what they actually want on a quiet Sunday afternoon. That kind of confusion is not random. It has been rehearsed. And it shows up in places people do not expect. In the tone you use with friends. In the way you decorate your apartment. In whether your calendar belongs to you or to a version of you that always needs to seem booked, improving, moving. In the way you answer the question, how are you? In whether your workout is for your body or for proof. In whether your ambition is coming from desire or from the fear of being ordinary in a country that treats visibility as worth. That last one matters a lot in the United States. Because American culture is unusually good at making performance look like identity. A title becomes a self. A city becomes a self. A relationship status becomes a self. A level of fitness becomes a self. A lifestyle becomes a self.
So when one of those things starts to wobble, people do not just feel inconvenience, they feel personal threat. Not only, this might not work, but what does this say about who I am? That is too much weight for any external thing to carry. And the more weight you put there, the easier it becomes for your life to be directed by fear instead of truth. Fear of looking behind at age 25. Fear of not being married by 30. Fear of not having the right zip code, the right body, the right trajectory, the right proof. Fear of saying, actually, this does not fit me, after you already built a visible identity around it. So people adapt. They become convincing. They learn how to speak like they are certain, how to post like they are stable, how to choose like they are aligned. And they can keep this going for years. That is why this issue is deeper than stress.
Stress is only the surface symptom. The deeper problem is that you can become highly practiced in maintaining a life you would not have chosen so aggressively if no one were watching. That should stop you, because once you understand that, a lot of your old questions become too shallow. Why am I so tired is too small. Why am I so insecure is too small. Even why do I care what people think may be too small. A better question is, how much of my current life was chosen to feel true, and how much of it was chosen to feel legible? That is a brutal question, but it is an honest one. Look at career, look at dating, look at friendship, look at your online self, look at your spending, look at the way you describe your future. How much of it came from your own center, and how much came from trying to avoid the discomfort of being hard to categorize? The woman staying in Los Angeles because leaving would look like failure. The man staying in finance because leaving would confuse his parents in New Jersey. The 28-year-old in Brooklyn staying with the wrong person because starting over would disrupt the image of progress. These are not tiny choices. They become lives. And that is why this part matters so much. Because once other people's reactions train your sense of direction, you are no longer only reacting emotionally. You are building a biography around borrowed priorities. A life shaped to be understood quickly. A life that earns less friction from the crowd. A life that slowly forgets the private self that never wanted some of these things as badly as the image did. That is the real theft. Not just time, not just peace, not just a few anxious evenings after a delayed text or an awkward office exchange. It is the theft of self-recognition, the ability to say, without performing, this is mine, this choice is mine, this pace is mine, this city is mine, this relationship is mine, this dream is mine. That ability gets weaker when every choice keeps passing through the filter of approval first. And once it gets weak enough, you can be surrounded by signs of progress and still feel strangely absent from your own life. You can feel successful and missing, connected and missing, visible and missing. That is why some people reach 30, 35, even 40, and suddenly start dismantling lives that looked perfectly fine from the outside. The job was good. The relationship made sense. The apartment in Manhattan was beautiful. The resume was strong. The photos looked healthy. But the person inside had not been the main decision maker for a very long time. And eventually, that debt comes due. Maybe as burnout, maybe as numbness, maybe as resentment. Maybe as a breakup that surprises everyone else but not you. Maybe as a move that looks irrational until you realize you were suffocating. Maybe as a late-night moment in a kitchen in Austin, or a small apartment in Queens where you finally admit, I do not know if I even like the life I worked this hard to maintain. That is not failure.
That is contact. Painful contact. Late contact. Expensive contact. But contact all the same. The point is not to hate yourself for how long it took. The point is to understand what was being shaped without your full consent. Once you see that, the tiredness starts to make more sense. You are not only managing emotions, you are carrying the ongoing labor of keeping a life legible to the outside world. No wonder you feel worn down. And once a person sees that clearly, the next question changes. It is no longer just, how do I stop caring so much? It becomes something more practical and more difficult. If this pressure has been bending my choices, changing my voice, and training me to live for readability, then how do I build a life that supports the real version of me instead of the one that performs best?
A lot of people keep making one expensive deal with themselves. They say, I'll build a better life when I feel better first. I'll fix my sleep when my mind calms down. I'll get back to work when the overthinking stops. I'll clean up my days when the sadness lifts. I'll become consistent when I finally feel motivated again. And because of that deal, nothing steady gets built, so the feelings stay in charge. You can see this in ordinary places. A phone glowing at 12:48 a.m. in a bedroom in Brooklyn. A 7 a.m. alarm going off before a subway commute in Manhattan. A Sunday meal prep that never happens because the weekend got swallowed by scrolling, checking, thinking, waiting. A Google Calendar full of blocks that look serious, while the actual day keeps getting pulled around by mood, by silence, by whatever arrived or did not arrive on iMessage before breakfast. This is why so many people stay stuck longer than they should. They keep trying to negotiate with emotion, like emotion is the landlord and life is the tenant. They wait for permission to begin. They wait for a cleaner morning, a lighter chest, a more hopeful week, a stronger version of themselves to show up first. Then they imagine that version will finally do the boring things. Go to sleep on time, cook real food, answer the email, sit down at the library desk, do the deep work block, take the walk, leave the phone outside the bedroom, stop touching the wound every hour to see if it still hurts. But that is not usually how change enters a life. A steadier life often arrives before a steadier feeling, not after. That sounds backwards until you look at how most people actually live. A woman in Chicago feels emotionally wrung out after a breakup and keeps saying she needs clarity. But what she really needs by week 1 is not another long conversation. She needs Tuesday night to end at 11 p.m. instead of 1:40 a.m. with TikTok running and her phone in her hand. A man in Austin keeps saying he cannot focus because his mind is everywhere. But by month 3, what helps him most may not be more insight. It may be one deep work block every morning from 8:30 to 10:00 at the co-working space, before Slack, before Instagram, before his attention gets sold off in pieces. This is harder for people to accept because it feels too plain. It does not sound emotional enough. It does not sound deep enough. It does not sound like healing. But a lot of what people call healing is really just waiting in more sophisticated language. They keep circling the same pain, naming it more beautifully, understanding it more clearly, talking about it more intelligently, while their actual day stays loose, leaky, and easy to hijack. And a loose day cannot hold a heavy mind for very long. So the first shift is simple. Do not ask your emotions to become stable before your life gives them anywhere stable to live. That is where many people get it backward. They think peace is something you feel first and then protect. Often, it is something you build a place for. The first 30 days matter here, not because they magically fix everything,
but because they prove something important. Your mind behaves differently when your day stops feeling like an open door. Start with the part people always underestimate: sleep. Not as a wellness trend, not as a productivity trick, as basic protection. A person who goes to bed at 2 a.m. after 2 hours of Instagram, 4 half-written notes app drafts, and one last check of Apple Messages is not waking up neutral. They are waking up already easier to disturb, more likely to read too much into tone, more likely to reach for a signal before they reach for themselves, more likely to let one unread message decide the color of the morning. That is not weakness. That is depletion. Look at the difference between 2 mornings.
In one, you sleep with the phone on the pillow, wake at 6:17 a.m., check Gmail before your eyes are fully open, see no reply from the manager, then carry that emptiness into the shower, into the kitchen, into the subway, into the whole first half of your day. In the other, the phone stays outside the bedroom. The alarm clock is cheap and ugly and honest. You wake at 7 a.m., drink water, stand in your own kitchen for 3 minutes, and the first thing entering your body is not uncertainty from somebody else. That changes more than people think, because once your morning stops beginning with exposure, it becomes easier not to live in reaction. You do not need a perfect routine. You do not need to become one of those people posting sunrise habits from Los Angeles. You need fewer openings where other people's noise gets first access to your nervous system. A simple morning routine before commute can do more for your emotional life than another hour of private analysis. That matters. The next part is not about being busy. It is about having somewhere for your mind to go besides itself. A lot of people are suffering from too much unclaimed attention. They think they need more reassurance. Sometimes they need a place where their mind has to answer to reality again. Not feelings only, not interpretation only. Reality. A page, a task, a skill, a deadline, a body in motion, a shift at work, a library desk at 9 a.m., a community college schedule that says class starts at 10:30, whether you feel poetic or not. This is why a true point of focus changes people. When you are building something real, your attention does not disappear, it gets recruited. The person with a deep work block on Google Calendar is not magically wiser than the person staring at their phone. They're just giving their mind a better job. The woman in Seattle who spends 90 minutes every morning studying for a certification exam is not less emotional than she was 3 months ago. But her mind now has something heavier to carry than a delayed text. The man in Philadelphia who goes from endless rumination to a 2-hour block at the gym and then 1 clean hour on his business plan is not pretending pain is gone. He is simply refusing to let pain be the only thing with a reservation in his day. That is a huge difference. Without that kind of anchor, you stay available to every internal weather change. A weird thought comes. You follow it. A memory rises. You disappear into it. Someone views your story but does not text back. Half the afternoon is gone. But when your day contains real points of contact with something outside your moods, the day becomes harder to steal. A 9 a.m. library desk, a 12:30 community college lecture, a 6:15 gym membership you actually use in Cleveland, a 7 p.m. car commute home where you listen to nothing and let your thoughts settle instead of feeding them with more content. This is not glamorous. That is why it works. A lot of people are still looking for a dramatic shift, a better talk, a cleaner ending, a final explanation. But your life usually changes by getting less available to interruption, not more emotionally convinced. The thing that saves some people is not a breakthrough. It is a Tuesday that repeats on purpose, a Thursday that has edges, a Sunday meal prep from Trader Joe's that happens 3 weeks in a row even when nobody sees it.
Eggs, rice, chicken, containers, fridge. Ordinary things, life-supporting things. And if you can only do one thing this week, do not choose the thing that makes you feel most inspired. Choose the thing that makes tomorrow harder to hijack. That could be the phone outside the bedroom. That could be the 7 a.m. wake-up. That could be one deep work block before checking Slack. That could be 10 groceries from Trader Joe's every Sunday instead of another weekend spent emotionally improvising. The point is not intensity. The point is repeatability.
Then there is another place where people quietly lose their footing. They leave too many doors open at once, not just emotionally, practically. Every app open, every conversation still alive, every invitation still possible. Every person still allowed access to the same raw parts of them. Then they wonder why they feel porous, why they cannot hear themselves, why every vibration, every Instagram DM, every LinkedIn message, every late-night text, every "Hey stranger" from an ex in Denver has the power to alter their whole evening. An open life sounds free. Often, it is just overstimulated. There is a difference between connection and constant access. The person who never closes anything is not necessarily more loving. They may just be more reachable by chaos. Their bedroom is full of charge cords and not much rest. Their Google Calendar has no blank space. Their phone is on the kitchen counter during dinner, on the couch during TV, on the nightstand at 1 a.m., in the bathroom at 6:45 a.m. Their attention is not their own, because nothing around them tells it where to stop. That is why you need limits, even if you never use that word. Not walls, not punishment, not dramatic exits, just fewer openings. You do not need to answer every message the same hour it arrives. You do not need to keep all notifications on. You do not need to treat your ex-partner like they still deserve front-row access to your mind. You do not need Slack and Instagram and Gmail and iMessage and TikTok all waking up with you and going to sleep with you. A person in San Diego who keeps every line open all day is not more connected than the person in Minneapolis who checks their messages at noon and 6 p.m. They are often just more interruptible. And interruptible people struggle to become steady, because every outside signal gets to vote. A late LinkedIn message from a recruiter at 9:12 p.m. changes the night. A Hinge notification during lunch changes the mood. A best friend typing and then not sending in the group text creates an emotional side plot that had no business existing. None of these things are major by themselves, but when access is unlimited, each one gets a seat at the table. Then your life starts sounding like static. So part of building a stronger day means deciding what gets in, when it gets in, and how close it gets to your most vulnerable hours. The phone outside the bedroom is not a tiny self-help tip. It is a statement about first access. The app deleted during week 1 is not some grand transformation. It is a refusal to let uncertainty live rent-free in your pocket. The choice to stop checking Apple messages during your 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock a.m. work block is not rigid. It is the difference between a mind that is trying to build and a mind that is always waiting to be acted upon. That is where a lot of peace begins, in fewer openings. Then comes the last part, and this is the one people resist because it sounds too small to matter. You need evidence that you can trust yourself. Not compliments, not intentions, not a new identity you announce on Instagram. Evidence. The kind that builds quietly. The kind that makes you believable to yourself. This is where self-respect gets real. A person says they want to be more grounded. Fine. but do they go to sleep when they said they would? A person says they are done living for reactions. Fine, but do they keep their phone outside the bedroom for the first 30 days, or only when they feel strong? A person says they want to stop being run by uncertainty. Fine, but do they show up to the 9 a.m. library desk in week 2 when nobody praises them and the mood is bad, and the old life still looks more tempting? This is where belief changes. Not when you say you are different, when you become dependable in your own eyes. That may be a 1-mile walk after dinner in Queens, a notes app list you actually follow, a Google Calendar block you stop treating like a suggestion,
A gym membership you finally use on Monday, Wednesday, Friday for a month. A car commute where you do not spend red lights checking for replies. A Sunday reset where you wash clothes, prep food, and plug your phone in across the room. Small things, real things, things that tell your body again and again, I do not disappear when life feels messy. I still show up. That creates a very different kind of confidence. Not loud confidence, not social confidence, not image confidence. Reliable confidence. The kind that grows when you keep a promise to yourself on a random Wednesday in month 3. The kind that no one can fully see from the outside because it was built in a bedroom, a kitchen, a community college parking lot, a gym at 6:20 a.m., a co-working space in Austin, a subway commute where you chose stillness over checking. That kind lasts. And it also changes the emotional question. Instead of asking, "How do I feel right now?" every 10 minutes, you begin asking, "What does my life need from me today?" That is not cold. It is stabilizing. It does not deny emotion. It simply stops treating emotion like the only voice with authority. Because if feeling is always first, your day stays fragile. If your day has shape, feeling does not get erased. It just stops being the driver every hour. That is why peace is not only emotional, it is logistical too. There is peace in a made bed, peace in lunch already in the fridge, peace in the phone charging in the kitchen, peace in the same wake-up time on Monday and Thursday, peace in one deep work block that happened even though nobody clapped, peace in knowing the next right thing before the spiral starts bargaining. These things sound ordinary because they are, but ordinary support is exactly what many overwhelmed people are missing. They are trying to heal inside a day that keeps reopening the wound. They're trying to think their way into calm while living inside routines that keep them underfed, underrested, overexposed, and available to every digital signal. Then they wonder why peace never stays. Peace needs somewhere to land, and once you start building that place, something surprising happens. You may not feel dramatically better right away. In fact, week 1 can feel strange, quieter, almost disappointing. There is no big high, no huge speech, no cinematic shift. Trader Joe's groceries are still groceries. A 7 a.m. wake-up is still a 7 a.m. wake-up. A Google Calendar is still a calendar. But underneath that, another truth starts growing. Your life begins to hold you better than it did before. That matters more than inspiration, because inspiration is generous on one day and gone the next. A solid day is less glamorous and far more loyal. Once enough days like that stack up, your mind stops having to beg so hard for rescue from the outside. It still wants love. It still wants closeness. It still wants to be seen sometimes. But it is not starving in the same way. It is not asking one unread message to do the work of a stable life. And that changes the whole tone of your relationships. You ask less from uncertain people. You react less to shifting moods. You become harder to throw off course with one silence, one delay, one mixed signal. Not because you became colder, because your life finally gives you something to stand on. Then another challenge appears. You may be changing for real now. You may be sleeping better, showing up better, speaking more clearly, living with more intention, and still the people around you do not seem to notice much at all. That can feel frustrating, even unfair. But there is a reason for that too. And if you do not understand it, you can do real work for months and still feel invisible. One of the hardest parts of changing is that relief does not always arrive first. Sometimes the first thing that arrives is grief.
Not dramatic grief, not the kind that announces itself. I mean the quieter kind. The kind that shows up in post-breakup month 2, in a Brooklyn apartment that suddenly feels too still. In the first holiday alone when the Thanksgiving table looks full and you still feel the missing shape of one person. A lot of people do not expect that. They think once they stop chasing, stop begging, stop checking, stop folding themselves around mixed signals, they should feel clean right away, strong right away, proud right away. But many people feel something much heavier before they feel free. They feel embarrassed. They feel late. They feel sad that it took them so long to see what they were doing. That sadness deserves more respect than most people give it. Because you are not only walking away from a few bad habits, you are also walking away from an older version of yourself that knew how to survive one way and did not know another. The woman in Phoenix who spent 2 years checking her ex-partner's Instagram was not trying to ruin her life. The man in Seattle who kept writing one more long message at 11:48 p.m. was not trying to lose his self-respect. They were both trying to stay emotionally connected to something that once felt like safety. So when you stop doing that, it can feel less like victory and more like withdrawal. Your hand still reaches for the phone at 7:06 a.m. Your mind still wants to check Apple messages in the kitchen before coffee. You still look at the screen during Sunday evening and half expect the old name to appear. And when it does not, the pain can feel strangely fresh, even though the decision to step back was the right one. That is the part people rarely say out loud. A right decision can still hurt. You can know the relationship was draining and still cry in month 3. You can know the friendship in Los Angeles was one-sided and still miss the voice note that used to arrive every Friday night. You can know your old behavior was costing you sleep, peace, and dignity, and still feel a sting when you stop doing it. Not because you chose wrong, because attachment does not leave the body the same day clarity enters the mind. That matters. Otherwise, people become cruel to themselves at the very moment they most need steadiness. They say, "Why am I still sad if I know better now? Why am I still affected after 30 days? Why do I still want the old comfort if I already see how expensive it was?" And then they turn their new awareness into a weapon. They use today's understanding to humiliate yesterday's pain. That only creates a cleaner kind of self-hatred. There is a better way to see it. The older version of you was built under conditions you may not have chosen. Maybe attention once meant relief. Maybe being picked once meant safety. Maybe being needed by someone gave your life shape during a lonely year in college, during a breakup in Boston, during a move to Denver, during the winter after graduation in 2020, when the whole world felt unstable and your phone became your nearest form of certainty. If that is true, then it makes sense that letting go feels personal. You are not just dropping a habit. You are giving up a method your body once trusted. The constant checking, the emotional over-explaining, The late-night need to fix tone, fix distance, fix silence. Those things may have made your life smaller, but they also gave you the feeling that you were still involved, still connected, still doing something. Once you stop, there is more empty space, and empty space can feel frightening before it feels peaceful. That is why the sadness after clarity is not proof that you failed. It is proof that you touched something real. A lot of people never let themselves touch that part. They go from attachment straight into performance. They tell themselves they are stronger now. They act detached too soon. They become cold in public, short in messages, hard in tone.
They call that growth. But often it is only protection wearing nicer clothes. The wound is still there. It just learned how to speak in a flatter voice. Real change is usually less theatrical than that. It may look like crying in your car after a therapist session on a Wednesday in Chicago. It may look like putting the phone down in week 1 and feeling worse before you feel better. It may look like seeing your oldest friend after changing and realizing the conversation still pulls you toward the person you were in 2022. It may look like sitting through the first holiday alone in a suburban family home and not rushing to fill the silence just because it hurts. That kind of pain is clean, not pleasant, not glamorous, but clean, because it belongs to the truth. You are finally letting yourself feel what all the noise used to cover. The over-checking covered it. The over-talking covered it. The fantasy that one perfect conversation would fix everything covered it. The constant movement covered it. Once those fall away, you meet the actual grief underneath. And grief is not always about the other person. Sometimes it is grief for your own lost time, for the years you spent shaping your day around somebody else's tone, for the apartment in Brooklyn where you kept your peace on hold, for the Sundays that belonged to waiting, for the version of you who kept trying to earn calm from someone who could not give it in a stable way, for the times your parent told you to just move on, and you could not explain why it felt harder than that. For the moments your manager said, "You seem distracted lately," and you knew the real issue was not work at all. This is why the beginning of healing can feel so humbling. You start seeing how much effort went into staying emotionally attached to something that was not holding you well. The ex-partner, the almost relationship, the friend who only called when they were lonely, the approval you wanted from a parent who only noticed achievements, the version of yourself that knew how to be needed, but not how to rest. And at first, that recognition can make people feel ashamed. It does not have to. You do not need to despise the person who survived the only way they knew. A woman in Miami who kept checking Hinge after a painful situationship was not stupid. A man in New Jersey who kept explaining himself to an emotionally inconsistent parent was not weak. They were doing what many human beings do when they are frightened of loss. They kept trying to reopen a door that once felt important. Compassion matters here. Not the kind that excuses everything forever. The kind that tells the truth without turning it into contempt. You can say, "Yes, I abandoned myself there." You can say, "Yes, I was too available for crumbs." You can say, "Yes, I kept going back to an old hunger." But you can say it without spitting on your own history. You can say it like a person finally seeing clearly, not like a prosecutor building a case. That changes the whole feel of change. Because then, you are not trying to become a new person by rejecting the old one. You are carrying the old one forward more honestly. Less romance, less illusion,
Less bargaining, more truth, more softness, more responsibility without cruelty. That is usually stronger than the hard version people try to perform after a breakup or a wake-up call. Then another problem shows up. You change inside, but the world does not update around you very fast. And if nobody warns you about that, it can make you doubt your progress more than almost anything else. You stop chasing. You stop over-explaining. You speak more carefully. You take better care of your mornings. Your therapist notices. Your journal notices. Maybe your mentor notices. But plenty of other people do not. They keep talking to the old you. Your parent still treats you like the unreliable one from 2021. Your oldest friend still expects you to be the one who will always overgive.
Your ex-partner still sends a casual message as if you are the same person they could access any time. Your manager at the office still sees the tired employee from before burnout. You may have changed deeply in 90 days, but people around you often go on living with an older picture in their head. That can sting more than people admit, because part of you hopes the inner work will become visible quickly. You think, if I'm calmer now, they will see it. If I stop explaining, they will understand. If I live differently for a few weeks, the whole dynamic will shift. Sometimes it does. Often it does not. At least not right away. And that delay can feel like being unseen all over again. But it is not the same thing. It is usually just slower than your emotions want. People are not updated by one conversation. They are not updated by one firm text, one quiet month, one new boundary, one clean week. They are updated by repetition, by time, by enough new behavior, but the old image starts losing its grip. Until then, many of them will still react to who you were, not who you are becoming. That delay is real. A woman moves from Phoenix to Seattle after a painful year and becomes much more grounded within 6 months. She sleeps better, drinks less, stops writing paragraphs to unavailable people, starts protecting her time. But when she visits home at Thanksgiving, her family still pulls her into the same old role within 20 minutes. The peacemaker, the one who smooths tension, the one who stays available. They are not reading the new version yet. They are reading memory. That is exhausting if you do not understand it, because then you assume one of two things. Either you tell yourself, I must not have changed at all, or you get angry and start demanding that people recognize the new you immediately. Both reactions can push you backward. The first one makes you doubt the work. The second one tempts you into performance again, into proving, into over-explaining. Into trying to force other people to update on your timeline. That rarely ends well. Most people do not need more explanation from you. They need more time watching you be consistent. That is a harder truth than it sounds, because explanation feels active. It feels like control. It feels like you are doing something. Time feels slow. Quiet repetition feels almost invisible. But invisible work is often what rewrites people's minds in the long run. Epictetus put it plainly. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. The important part in that sentence is not the first half, it is the second. Do what you have to do, again and again, long enough that your life starts speaking before your mouth does. Long enough that your old friend in Atlanta slowly notices you do not gossip the same way anymore. Long enough that your manager notices you are steadier under pressure. Long enough that the ex-partner's old access stops working because you are no longer arranging your inner life around their timing.
That is how real change becomes legible. Not instantly, not fairly, not always on the schedule your wounded ego would prefer, but it becomes visible. The dangerous moment is the one in between. The stretch where you have changed enough to feel different inside, but not long enough to be seen accurately outside. That is where many people lose heart. They start thinking, what is the point? Why am I doing all this if nobody notices? Why am I still being treated like the old version? Why does it still feel like I have to defend myself? That is the part that requires maturity. Because now your work is no longer just to change. It is to keep changing without immediate recognition. That is rare. And it is also one of the cleanest forms of strength. A man returns to office after burnout in month 4. He is quieter now, more careful with energy, less eager to win every room. But some coworkers read that as distance. A parent reads it as attitude.
An old friend reads it as being different in a bad way. If he panics and starts proving he is still the same, he loses ground. If he hardens and becomes bitter, he loses ground in another way. The better response is calmer than both. Keep living it. That sounds simple. It is not. Because there is a certain loneliness in letting people misunderstand you for a while, without rushing to rescue your image. There is a certain discipline in not giving a 5-minute speech at the Thanksgiving table just because your parent still talks to you like the version from 2 years ago. There is a certain dignity in letting your ex-partner think you are cold rather than reopening a door you worked hard to close. There is a certain peace in knowing your therapist, your mentor, your notebook, and your own body can feel the difference even before the whole world catches up. That peace is earned. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The line is older than all of our apps and still lands cleanly. It does not mean never speak. It means do not build your whole life around being immediately interpreted correctly. Be the thing. Live the thing. Let time do some of the explaining that your anxiety keeps trying to do too early. There is relief in that. Because once you stop needing instant recognition, the delay bothers you less. You still notice it, you still feel it sometimes. It still stings when your oldest friend treats you like the anxious version from the old days. It still hurts when your parent in that suburban family home does not see how hard you have worked to become calmer. It still feels strange when your ex-partner reaches out in month 6 as if the old access should still be there. But now the sting is information, not instruction. You do not have to obey it. That is a huge shift. A person who can let the world be late without panicking is much harder to pull back into old roles. A person who can survive not being updated immediately is much harder to manipulate with nostalgia, guilt, or misunderstanding. They do not need everyone to catch up by Friday. They are willing to let their life become undeniable over time. And time really does matter here. 30 days may change your mornings. 90 days may change your energy. After 1 year, your face, your speech, your schedule, and your standards may all look different. But other people often lag behind that curve. Some because they are busy. Some because they are attached to who you used to be. Some because your old version was more convenient for them. Some because humans in general are slow to revise their private files on other people. That is not always malicious, but it is often inconvenient. And if you do not respect that inconvenience, you can accidentally build a new prison out of wanting to be seen as changed. Then the whole thing turns into another performance. Not the old performance of being good, easy, chosen, needed. A new performance. Being healed, being above it,
being detached, being evolved. That performance can look very clean and still leave you just as dependent on response as before. So this is where the final maturity enters. Not in pretending the delay does not hurt. Not in forcing yourself to feel noble about it. Not in turning into stone. It shows up in being willing to keep your life true while recognition arrives late. In letting grief be grief without turning it into identity. In letting old people be slow without handing them the keys to your direction. In letting your change remain real even on days when nobody mirrors it back to you well. That is a quieter strength than most people talk about. It is the strength of the first holiday alone, when you do not undo your progress just to avoid the ache. The strength of post-breakup month 2, when you do not reopen the chat because loneliness got louder after 10 p.m.
The strength of moving from Phoenix to Seattle and not shrinking just because the people back home still speak to the old version. The strength of returning to office after burnout and not slipping back into overperformance just because your manager responds faster to the exhausted version who never said no. That kind of strength does not look dramatic. It looks steady. And steadiness is what lets sadness finish its work without taking over your future. Because sadness has a job. It helps you feel the cost. It helps you grieve the fantasy. It helps you mourn the years, the version of yourself, the relationship you hoped would become something else. But sadness is not meant to become your home. It is meant to move through, tell the truth, and leave you clearer. If you let it do that, it becomes softer with time. Not because the past changes, because your relationship to the past changes. The old apartment in Brooklyn becomes a memory, not a wound you keep feeding. The Thanksgiving table becomes a place you can sit at without needing every parent comment to confirm your worth. The old friend from college becomes someone you care about without letting them define your present. The ex-partner becomes a chapter, not a weather report. That is where real freedom starts to feel less like a slogan and more like a life. You are still human. You still have days where the sadness returns for an hour. You still have moments where being misunderstood annoys you. You still notice who has and has not updated. You still feel the old pull sometimes at 11:30 p.m., at Sunday evening, at the first holiday alone, at the 1-year mark when you thought you would feel more finished than you do. But none of that has to send you backward. Not anymore. Because now you understand something bigger than the first wake-up call. You understand that leaving an old way of living can feel like loss before it feels like freedom.
You understand that people often see your old outline long after you have begun changing the inside. You understand that this delay is not proof that the work is fake. It is often proof that the work is young. So give it time. Give it enough time to become visible in your habits, your face, your speech, your choices, your standards, the way you use your evenings, the way you answer messages, the way you move through a room, the way you carry silence without turning it into panic. Give it enough time that even people who were slow to notice have fewer and fewer places to attach the old story. And until then, stay honest. Stay honest about the sadness without worshiping it. Stay honest about the slowness without dramatizing it. Stay honest about the fact that some people may never fully update, not because you failed, but because not everyone is meant to walk with the newest version of you forever. Some knew you in one chapter and will always speak from there. Let them. Your job is not to force a faster verdict.
Your job is to keep becoming the person you already saw for a moment when the noise dropped. The one who does not need every old relationship to confirm the new life. The one who does not need perfect understanding to keep going. The one who can live through a delayed update without returning to an outdated self. That is enough. And maybe that is the real test at the end of all this. Not whether you can see the truth once. Not whether you can feel strong on a good day. Not whether the right quote from Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus lands at the right time. But whether you can keep walking with a cleaner heart while the world is still catching up. If no one updates their image of you for a while longer, can you still remain loyal to what you now know is true?